Okay, so I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order and ask for a roll call, please.
Fan City,
Here.
County of Monterey,
Here.
Seaside,
Here.
Marina Coast,
Here.
Delray Oaks,
Here.
Salinas, Pacific Grove,
Here.
Castroville,
Here.
Veranda,
Here.
Monterey.
Here. All right, and with that, we'll do Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll ask the supervisor to kick us off here.
I got my breath.
Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, any additions to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move to approval of agenda.
Move approval. Second.
Moved and seconded. Anybody in the public? Seeing there are no public, we're gonna bring it back to the board. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Move on to item number 6, public comments. We will go out to the public for any public comments that are not on today's agenda. Seeing that there is nobody in the public, we will bring it back to the board. Moving on to item number 7 is our one action item, 7A, receive draft fiscal year 2025-2026 proposed budget. I think we're going to pass it off to Lawrence. You are the man of the hour.
Thank you. Let's pull up the presentation. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the board. I'm Lawrence Chiu, the Director of Finance of the agency. Today, I'm presenting the proposed budget for fiscal year 25 and 26. Next slide, please. The agenda includes an overview of the fund's structure, goals for the fiscal year 26 budget. After that, we're looking at the revenue, expenditure, and capital project of the wastewater fund, renewable energy fund, Monterey County Water Resource Agency budget, and the Pure Water Monterey Fund budget, and finally is the staffing summary for the next fiscal year. Next slide, please. The agency has 6 funds to account for different operations. Fund 1 is the wastewater fund, and Fund 3 is the renewable energy fund. Fund 4 is SVRP, Fund 5 CCIP, Fund 6 SRDF, and finally Fund 58 is the Pure Water Monterey Fund. Next slide, please. Now we look at the goals for the FY26 proposed budget. The agency will continue to invest in the infrastructure and capital improvement project. This is the 5th and final year for the adopt rate increase, and staff is working on an RFP for the rate study and will present to the board for consideration in fall 2025. On the operation side, the proposed budget includes funding to ensure timely maintenance of equipment and to ensure reliability of the wastewater system. The proposed budget also set aside $200,000 for the customer assistance program in the fiscal year 2026. Other goals for the next year budget include the implementation of a new enterprise resource planning system to streamline the finance operation. The agency will continue to explore options to expand the use of renewable energy. We will continue to maintain low incident rate and provide leadership and communication training to the agency staff. Next slide, please. Okay, now we look at the wastewater fund budget. The table on the left-hand side provides a summary of the wastewater revenue. This includes the residential user fee, commercial user fee, and the project grant revenues. Total project revenue for the wastewater fund are $95.6 million. The table on the right summarizes the project expenditure of $95.6 million. Total expenditure includes $4.5 million set aside for operating and capital contingency, $400,000 to prefund pension and fund liabilities. 51 million to fund the operating expense, and 39 million for the capital project. Next slide, please. The wastewater fund include 2.3 million set aside for the operating contingency and 2.2 million set aside for the capital contingency. Once you look at the definition of the operating contingency, they are the funds set aside for unexpected operating expense, and the capital contingency are set aside for unexpected equipment replacement. Next slide, please. I just mentioned the FY26 revenue is 95.6 million. Before we dive into the detail, we want to go back to look at the current fiscal year. The second column highlighted in green is the current year budget of 66 million. Based on the 9-month operation, staff projected total revenue for the current fiscal year is 88 million. The increase is mainly due to increase in user fee and grants revenue. The next column, highlighted in blue, is the FY26 proposed wastewater fund budget of 95.6 million. The increase is mainly due to increase in user fee and project via financing on capital project. Now we look at the pie chart on the right-hand side. The pie chart on the right-hand side highlights the major revenue of the wastewater fund. As you can see, over 60% of the revenue is coming from the residential user fee, around 16% coming from the commercial user fee. I want to check if you have any question before I move on to the next slide. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, slide number 9 is the proposed sewer service fee effective July 1st, 2025. And this is the last year for the adopt fee increase. For the FY25-26, the residential monthly fee is $54 per month. This represents a 5.99% increase from the prior year. And staff will have a RFP that will send out in late June to have a consultant to look at the proposed rate increase for the next 5 years. And staff will present the proposal to the board for consideration in fall this year. Next slide, please. Now we look at the wastewater fund expenditure. The second column highlighted in green is the current year budget, which is 71 million. Based on the 9-month operation, we project the expenditure to be around 10 million or 61.8 million for the current fiscal year. The change is mainly due to saving on the operating expense. Now we look at the next column highlighted in blue is the FY26 expenditure for the next fiscal year. Total expenditure for the next fiscal year is 95.6 million. The major change between current year and the next year budget is the wastewater fund capital project. As you can see in FY25, the current fiscal year, the budget is 11.7 million. And for the next fiscal year, FY26, it is 35.1 million. I will provide you with more detailed breakdown on the CIP in the next slide. And on the right-hand side is a pie chart that breaks down the major expenditure for the wastewater fund. Capital plan is almost like a 44% of the total budget. Salary and employee benefit, around 25% of the total budget. And the next one is the miscellaneous operating expense that include professional service, maintenance, repair, and supplies is around 16% of the total budget. Next slide, please. Now we look at the detail for the next fiscal year CIP. This includes carry forward from the current fiscal year that will be rolled over to the next fiscal year of around 3.5 million. The next section is the engineering department CIP project. This includes the Monterey and Seaside Pump Station upgrade of 14.7 million. RTP electrical upgrade and interconnection with SVRP and AWPF, and this is eligible for WIFIA financing, is 11.7 million. Solid handling and resource recovery improvement, 3.6 million. I'm not going to read through the entire. So the total for the engineering department is 34 million. On the information service department, there are 3 CIP projects. This includes the enterprise resource planning system. It's around $700,000. Access control for the administration building is around $100,000, and the CMMS system is $100,000. And the Brian Alpha contract is around $800,000. So this brings the total CIP for the next fiscal year is 39.4 million. Any question on this? Okay, let's move on to slide number 12. Now we've just finished reviewing the wastewater fund budget. Now we are looking at Fund 3, which is the Renewable Energy Fund budget. In order to balance the budget, we transfer around $100,000 from the wastewater fund to the Renewable Energy Fund. And the project WIFIA financing on the capital project is 5.4 million. Below is the capital project for the 5.4, which is the Renewable Energy Improvement Project, which is eligible for the WIFIA financing. Next slide, please. Now we're looking at the Monterey County Water Resource Agency budget. There are 3 different budgets under the WRA. The first one is the SVRP. The second one is a CSIP, and the last one is the SRDF. Now we look at the SVRP budget first. This information is the same I present when we do the budget overview in April. There has been no changes. Operating budget for the SVRP is 5.3 million. And our agency requests for 2 capital projects. The first one is to develop a master plan of $300,000 and a switchgear replacement of 1 million. And WRA approved the switchgear replacement planning and design for $400,000. So there will be more funding when we start working on a project in the next fiscal year. Next slide, please. The next slide is the CSIP. It's operating budget $2 million. And we request for a $200,000 funding for the soft start for the booster pump, and so far we have not received any approval. Next slide, please. Slide number 7 is the SRDF budget. The operating budget is 1.6 million. And there are 2 CIP projects that we request. The first one is the soft start. It's around $80,000, and the second one is around $45,000. And WRA approved 25% for the funding for this project. It's equal to around $31,000. Now we look at the Pure Water Monterey budget, Fund 58. We project 4,100 acre-feet that will be available for the advanced treated water, and it is used for replenishment of the Seaside Basin and irrigation through the Marina Coast Water District. And funding source of this project include the Prop 1 grant, state and federal grant, and water sales to the member agency. The revenue assumption include the revenue coming from the Water Management District and the Marina Coast Water District. And we also need to provide 110% of the debt service coverage. Let's take a look at the next slide. The project revenue includes 16.1 million from the Water Management District and 1.6 million from the Marina Coast Water District. Other revenue is around close to 3 million. This brings the total project revenue to 20.7 million. On the operating side, the operation of the Pure Water Monterey is around 12 million. Debt service payment is around 4 million. The capital project for the next fiscal year include carryover from the current fiscal year of around $2 million, the switchgear replacement of around $1 million, new storage building $500,000, and capital outlay $300,000. This brings the total project expense to $20 million. Now we look at the staffing for the next fiscal year. This is the organization chart of the Monterey One Water. We have 7 departments. This includes the clerk of the board, finance department, and the employee service department, RTP, and engineering department, external affairs, and the information service department. Next slide, please. First of all, we look at the administration side. This table is divided into 3 sessions. The last session reflects the proposed staffing for the fiscal year 25 and 26. The administration includes the administration, employee service, customer service, finance, information service, safety, and community relations, with a proposed staffing of 31 full-time staff and 17 part-time staff. When you look at the administration, there are 11 part-time staff. Out of the 11, 10 of them are the board of directors. Okay, move on to the next slide. Now we're looking at the operation, the plant operation. The plant operation is we project 80 full-time staff and 5 part-time staff. So when you add the administration and the plant operation, we have a total of 111 full-time staff, 22 part-time staff. Out of the 22, 10 of them are the board of directors. So this brings the total staffing for the agency to 133. Okay, we look at the 2 pie chart at the bottom. The one on the left-hand side shows the distribution of the 111 full-time staff. RTP has 64 full-time staff, administration 31 full-time staff, and 16 staff is allocated to WRA and Pure Water Monterey. I will show you a detailed breakdown of the 16 staff that were allocated to those 2 programs. In terms of the staff distribution on the right-hand side, we have 111 full-time staff, part-time and temporary, including the board of directors, is around 9%. It's around part-time staff is 9%, and the board of directors is 10%. Next slide, please. I just mentioned there's a 16 staff allocated to other program. This provides you a detailed breakdown. 7.5 of the equivalent to FTE is assigned to SVLP, CSIP, and the SRDF program. And 8.5 of the FTE is allocated to the Pure Water Monterey program. This brings the total to 16 FTE that allocate to the 2 programs. Next slide, please. This slide summarizes the proposed change for the next fiscal year. Additional positions include a retired annuitant in the finance department to help out on the enterprise resource system implementation. Engineering department will add a contract administrator to assist on the record keeping and processing the contract. Utilities add an electrician technician position that will assist on the maintenance of different projects. There are 4 positions that we are proposed to reclass. The first one is in customer service division. We propose to reclass a customer service rep to a customer service rep limited term position. A senior information system analyst to reclass to become an information system analyst. And environmental compliance inspector will be reclassed to an analyst position, and a senior distribution mechanic will be reclassed to a distribution mechanic. So the next step is we are going to bring back the proposed budget for the board approval on June the 2nd. There will be 3 actions. The first one to approve the adopt budget for the next fiscal year. The next action will be approve the rates for the next fiscal year. And this administration item is to approve the fixed asset threshold for the next fiscal, to change the threshold for the on the finance policy. And this concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any question that you may have.
Thanks, Lawrence, for the presentation. We can start on the right. Does anybody on the right have questions? Tom, please.
Sure, a couple of questions. The 12, I think you said 12 part-timers, not counting us here on the dais.
Let's move up.
Are they all exactly half-time employees? Or is there some variability amongst them?
Most of them are half-time employee.
And then I was looking, so we do some maintenance for city-owned pump stations. I couldn't find in the longer budget document what we charge, how we charge them for that maintenance work.
You mean for which program?
That's in the wastewater.
Yeah, it
fund.
would be,
That's-
yeah, I think it'd be in the wastewater fund.
So our mechanics, when they do their time cards, they will code the particular city. The cities get billed for their time and materials on a monthly basis that goes through customer service.
Okay, and so somewhere in the tables, in the longer document, there's a line that, is there a line for each city or just for total revenues for those maintenance activities?
I believe it's total revenue.
It's total revenue.
And how do you go about forecasting that? 'Cause
It's based on the revenue expenditure for the last few years to do the forecasting.
it's based on their revenue as opposed to,
Expenditure.
are you
and the
talking
activity.
maintenance expenditure for the last 3 years or actual? When you say revenue, do you mean revenue collected from those cities?
Yes.
Revenue
Okay,
collected from
got
the
it,
cities on
got
the
it.
maintenance, because each of the city owns, they get looked at and inspected at least once a week. Where the larger stations that we own and the larger stations by the city, it's twice a week. So that's at a minimum that we have our staff
Right, right.
inspecting.
And is there anywhere in our budget that we analyze our expenses from the perspective of which are fixed expenses and which are variable expenses?
The budget is not, unfortunately, the budget is not structured that way, fixed expenditure and the variable expenditure. Because it's based on the operation need, there will be various based on the operation.
Okay, so if
And
the-
for when we, if I work in the city, yes, I just take one example. For example, police and fire, they are the fixed expenditure. And then other operation can be variable, but here is most of the expenditure here are fixed. And in addition, there might be variable expansion, like for example, if a pump station breakdown and staff will be working additional time to fix that, or have to like a purchase additional equipment to fix the pump, then there will be a variable expenditure. And most of the expenditure here are fixed expenditure based on our operation model.
right, and I would expect that that's true of water districts too. As Caliam not too long ago found out to its chagrin. Yeah, but I assume we do have some variable expenditures like electrical power and chemicals and so forth.
Yes,
But that's not contained in the budget. If the board ever wants to know roughly what the ratio of those two is, that would require some additional work.
yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else on the right? And how about on the left? Please.
Lawrence, I have a question on the wages and salaries on the wastewater fund. The actual from 23-24 is 9.7, and then as we get into the revised budget of 15, but then if we get into the preliminary budget, or the estimate, I'm sorry.
Which slide you're looking at? Are you looking at slide number 10?
Yeah,
Yes. Okay,
So
the
the-
current year budget is 15 million. And based on the 9-month operation, based on the actual expenditure on the 9 month, we project by the end of June 30th, when we close the book, there'll be a little bit of saving of around 12 million. The reason for the saving is some of the staffing get reallocated to the WRA, the free programs, and also to the pure water monitor rate. So that's why you see a salary saving in the current fiscal year, the 12 million. And for the next fiscal year, because of the cost of living adjustment and the market survey adjustment, so we project that will be increased that to around 15 million. The 15 million number is include the cost of living adjustment and the market survey.
Okay. Thank you for that. And then on the property user fees, you know, if you go from the 23, 24, and then the estimate of 57, there's a pretty big jump. Is that with a rate increase assumed, or is that?
Let's go to slide number 8. Okay, slide number 8 on the user fee.
Yes. So when we look at the actual and we look at the estimate of 24, 25, it goes up by 10 or so. How is that, how are you estimating that
The
big jump?
increase from let's look at the current year projection. The one I highlight in red with a red arrow is the 24-25 project is 88 million. It jumped from 88 to 95.6. It's based on a 5.99% increase on the user fee side. So that's why you will see a increase in the next fiscal year budget. Again, there are some revenue that will increase, but at the same time, you can see some revenue that we pull down a little bit. A very good example is the capacity charge. The current year budget is $600,000, but based on the year-to-date actual revenue, it's a 1.4 million. But for the development project for the next year, we don't know until those permits are being pulled by those developers. So that's why we do a very conservative estimate of $700,000. So that means some of the category you see revenue increase, but at the same time as you see some of the category revenue is going down a little bit. Another quick example is the very last one is the interest and other revenue. And we expected further reserve will reduce the interest rate in the next fiscal year. So that's why we pull down the revenue projection for the interest from approximately 4 million back to around 2.5 million. Again, this is just a proposed budget. When we pass the budget in July, and staff will bring this item back in January next year whenever we see any change in the budget for a revised budget for the FY26. This is the best estimate as of this particular point of time.
Thank you.
And on the same note, on the wastewater fund expenditures, I'm looking at the estimate for 24-25 to the preliminary budget, and there it jumps from like 33.8 million
Slide number
increase.
10. Is it slide number 10?
It's 162 on the agenda. I'm not sure. I didn't bring my laptop.
Are you looking at may I ask, are you looking at the revenue or the expenditure?
The expenditures for the FY 25-26 wastewater fund expenditures.
Okay, let me explain that as the wastewater fund expenditure, you can say spike from the current year budget 75 to the proposed budget 95.6. The major changes is related to the CIP that I highlight in red. When you look at the current year CIP, is roughly around 12 million. The one that I highlight in red is the wastewater capital project. Current year is 11.7 million. But in the proposed budget is 35.1 million. So that's why you see a big spike of over 20 million in the wastewater fund expenditure.
Thank you.
But when you look at the operating expenditure, go up a little bit, the operating expenditure current year is 51 million. And in the new fiscal year is 50.6 million. So that means like is on the operating side, we try our best to contain the expenditure and we did not increase any expenditure.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Please.
Thank you. On page 19, under funding sources, it says, and I'll give you a second to get there. It says funding sources, state and federal loans. Are those federal loans already in progress, or is that something we anticipate?
Those federal loans is only if we start a project and we include expenditure, then we will draw down. So that means if we don't incur expenditure, then that means we don't incur the loan.
Okay. So if I understand you correctly, it's like a line of credit.
Yes.
It's already sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to, the only danger would be if the federal government decided to suspend that loan or call back that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to attempt to answer the question a different way. This is for the Pure Water Monterey program. And yes, there are federal loans already in place that are available for the financing of that project. And, we're expanding that project currently, and that financing is available. But this agency has been very successful in securing grant funds, upwards of over $40 million for the Pure Water Monterey expansion, which have effectively allowed us to minimize the use of the loan part, right? And so this loan from the federal government, we call the WIFIA loan, they're actually, to the contrary, they're not threatening to cancel it. They're actually allowing us to extend use of it to other related projects, such as what we call the Regional Treatment Plant Electrical Reliability and Interconnection Project and Renewable Energy Improvements Project. So yes, there is essentially a line of credit there waiting that we intend to use for those two important projects.
Okay. Thank you.
So just following up on that, I know Matt, you're saying we've had a good history of getting grants, and I don't know if, at this point, history, tradition really matters with the current times. When you say it's actually, they're being encouraged to expand on that with those loans, is that a recent, in the last few months, input, or are we talking about?
Yes, we have
last year?
received notification from US EPA after the change in the presidential administration that our request to use the WIFIA financing for these two projects I described, that we may use it for that purpose.
Okay, I just think anything is regarding the federal government at this point,
Yeah.
we need to be rather
And
careful
generally-
and not real cautious and not
Not put our
not
eggs in
assume
that
a
basket.
lot. Yes,
Right.
like
Not
you
put
would.
our eggs in that basket.
And I want to add, low interest loans are great, but grants are even better, right? And so
They're going to be
we-
harder to come by. I think.
Yeah, we do have some federal grants associated with Pure Water Monterey, right? Like one of them is the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation grant, which is a federal grant in the order of about $10 million. So we're working on Pure Water Monterey expansion, and we're requesting disbursements from that grant program as fast as possible, because again, we share your concern. We don't want those grants to disappear. We essentially want to use the grants that have been extended to us in a timely manner.
Anybody else? Okay, let's take it out to the public. Anybody in the public wish to speak on this item? Seeing none, we will bring it back to the board for motion and deliberation.
Just need a motion to receive.
We need a motion, or we just,
Do you need a motion to direct that the budget be brought back for final decision at our next meeting?
is that your motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? We had a good conversation in the agenda prep meeting as a follow-up to part of the discussion we had, I think, at the last board meeting as it relates to setting enough reserve funding aside to maintain our infrastructure for the long term, as to not find ourselves in a position of having to bond finance and incur maybe unnecessary debts in the future. So I look forward to that discussion continuing, and I give a lot of appreciation and gratitude to staff who's done a lot of work in helping us get in the right direction in the first place. Because when I got onto the board, we didn't have the level of reserves that we do now with the O&M and capital. And so I think we have pretty healthy reserves now, but I look forward to continuing this discussion, particularly as it relates to the rate increases and making sure that we strike that right balance as to not disproportionately impact our ratepayers of today. And then I think the other thing I just want to give staff gratitude for, and our partners at the Water Resource Agency, is the partnership that we've had in trying to address the needs as it relates to the audit that was conducted. And I think it's reflected in the budget proposal, and making sure that we're being really clear and transparent and continuing those ongoing dialogues with that agency for better regional collaboration. So many kudos to staff for all the work that each of you do and the roles that you play to help us be where we are today, which is a 45-minute budget workshop meeting. That says something. I don't think it's a lack of interest. I think we had good dialogue here, but thank you, staff, for that. So with that, I will go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Pass it to staff for staff reports.
The only thing I want to give you guys a heads up is we're having some challenges at AWPF as far as networking and communication, and it's causing us to shut down on every 24 hours roughly. And so we've got all hands on deck trying to figure out where this quote unquote bug is coming from. In the meantime, we have had communication with the Water Management District to say that we have slowed down injection rates and we are still providing water for Marina Coast, but we will not jeopardize our water purchase agreement, and we still will meet the 3,500 at the end of June. So just wanted to give you the heads up. And again, we've got the design engineer and contractors, everybody's working diligently, even through the nights, trying to figure this out. So that's all I wanted to share. Matt?
What?
I want to share that is finance staff, we are working very hard on the RFP on the financial audit service. And we have the RFP presentation this week and next week. And we are planning to select the new auditor and present that to the board on June the 2nd. So we can start working on the interim and final audit for the current fiscal year.
Thank you for that. All right, we'll bring it to item number 9, board member comments, reports. All right, well, I will make a quick comment and say, I know that we're getting ready to transition into Memorial Day weekend here. And so I just wanted to give some love to those who've served. Can we get a quick show of hands of those that have served? I love it. Thank you for those folks. I think, of course, more importantly, is honoring those that we've lost from service. So just making sure that I think we keep that at the center of what we do, and making a little bit of a connection to M1W. I know a lot of the work that's done here is done quietly and consistently. We rely on the services that are done here, and I think most of our residents take it for granted. But our work here is obviously essential for the health and the well-being of our communities. We cannot function in a society without the work that's done here. Similarly to this weekend and what we're honoring, and the service that those that have fought and died for us, and so I go into the weekend honoring that, and I hope everybody has a safe and a well weekend with your family and loved ones. So with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.